All right, and we're back. It's COMP228. It's week 6, lesson 6, part 4 in the broadcast. We're continuously talking about these swing components we've been looking at. If we go back to the PowerPoint presentation, we've kind of hit most of it for this first part. Notice how one thing that we had to set up, even here in their example, this is a driver class that they set up. We had to set up set default close operation, JFrame exit on close. That's important. Here's something else they did. This set size, they can set the size here, whatever it's called, and the visibility. So you can actually, if you didn't set the set size in your class, like how we did, right, because we set bounds. What's the difference between set size and set bounds? Right, so let's try that. So let's go back to program.java. And here, before we make, let's make our set size 150 by 150 and see what happens. So my dialog dot set size. And notice there's a couple of things here. Dimension D, which is a rectangle, or a width and a height. And there's also, here's another one, set maximum size, that's what I wanted, or set minimum size, right? So we can kind of do these two. I think these make more sense to me. So maximum size, minimum size. But let's just start with set size. So set size, width and height. So we're going to make a width 300, height of 300, right? And we'll save that and see what happens. Just doing this. So cool. So it resized everything back to what it was, even though originally, and it actually moved the buttons too. So it kept the buttons inside of our view. Originally, our set bounds showed it, X and Y coordinates at 100, 100, and 450 by 300. It resized everything. So, my question is, do I need set bounds, right? If I don't, where does it appear? So let's just kind of comment this out and see what happens. So I'm going to run this thing again. And now you notice it happens on the left-hand side here, and nothing's changed. So far we haven't needed to do that. Now, how about instead of just set size, we can do other log. We're going to say set minimum size, right? Set minimum size. And again, to maybe we can do the 300 by 300. The minimum size is 300 by 300. And see, you can't do that, right? And how about set maximum size? What is it expecting from set minimum size, right? What dimension, though? What is that? It's set up a dimension, right? Actually, right, minimum size, which is dimension. And a dimension is a class, right? So what's dimension? So we have to set up a dimension object, right? So we can do, let's say, do a new dimension. Let's try this out. And what's the dimension we can put in there? What is it expecting? We can do that, right? So we have to do a width and a height. So we're going to say 300 by 300, right? We can do that. That'll satisfy the dimension variable, or shouldn't it? It says 4 quick fixes are available. I can import the dimension JWT, which I need to do. That'll fix that problem. Okay, good. So let's do this. My dog size. We'll do the same thing. Set maximum size, and we'll do a new dimension of 300 by 300. Now this is min-max dimension instead of new dimension in here. If we're going to do that inside of our program, we would set up a dimension, which is we'll call this dialog dimension, right? So dimensions, and we'll call this, right? Is equal to dimension of 300, 300. Watch now what we can do. So we can do this, do it one time, right? Here, where we do this again and again and again, right? We'll set the size of dialog dimension. So if I type dialog dimension, oops. And once I've got, did I type it wrong? Dialog dimensions. Oh, God. And I'll do the same thing here. I can replace this one because it's a dimension. And I do the same thing. Now, I specify my requirements, and I've only done it one time. So here. Right? Let's get rid of this stuff because we're obviously not going to use it right now, just for our demonstration purposes. So what does this do? And if I press play, now I have an object, and I can't resize my object in any way. I can't do my resize. I can do a maximize. I can try and hold down and do a maximize. It's not working. I can do an X, but it's fixed. It's going to be what it is, and I can't do any resize, which is what I should have for some kind of dialogue, right? Make sense? We can set options here like this outside of my dialogue. Or I can probably do a lot of this stuff inside, because these are just like setters that we can do probably in here, right? So I can do a lot of setting in here as well, like set bounds. I'm sure I can do this stuff because I don't want to do it out here. I can do this kind of stuff in here if I want to as well, right? Okay, so that's that one. We talked about this. It does use a string argument as the text for the Windows title bar. It's an option. It's if you want to do it or not. Look at all the options for the JFrame. If you don't know what they are and you don't want to check the rules, you want to set up a new JFrame, you can simply do something like this, new object. And if I go one of those, right, and I want to see what they are, what the options are, I can press Control Space, and I can see that there's different options. One is from a regular JFrame, it takes a title. Another one takes a title and some kind of graphics configuration, right? There's all, that's about it. So a title and or graphics configuration, which we haven't kind of set what that is yet, right? So that's pretty cool. And if you notice, look, it also says see also component set size, component set visible, component get default locale, right? So there's a bunch of other additional things you can do here just from that. So definitely the title bar is something we can choose to send in there or not when we create our new JFrame. All right. Flow layout. That's not one thing we have used the flow layout. There's different kinds of layouts that we can use from a control perspective. Control the way our background looks on our objects, right? Again, they're in a container. The flow layout, like it says, reflows the component width, just like if you notice we changed the set size and all of a sudden our buttons reflowed so they were inside of a viewable area as opposed to them being somewhere else. All right. Set layout is inherited from the class container. So container also has a set layout method. Remember, the container is our superclass for any of the containers that we have right now. Like, for example, our JPanel or our JFrame. Container, the JContainer class is the one that it's inheriting from. Again, the label itself, our J label has a string, which asks for the string. We can look at the J label as well. There's other things it takes in. One of the things it talks about is we can actually add in an image icon, and it says it supports several formats, GIF, PNG, and JPEG, one of those kind of things. One thing to note is, you know, you want to place them somewhere in your package. Now, how do you know where to place your icon? Now, if you notice, it says get class, displaying text and images in window, get class, get resource bug 1, right, invokes the method get class, right, again, inherited from object, right? And it says the image icon constructor uses the URL to locate the image. Well, here's our URL resource right here, right? And it determines the location of the resource, right? So where is my, if I was going to locate it? Well, what's the proper place to put that, right, in our folder? So if I go back to my project, right, here is my sources, right? I have my default package. Where do I put my assets? Any ideas for Java? How about Tyler? Tyler, anywhere? Where would I put my package, my assets for my images inside my my application? Do you remember? Yeah. Do I put them in the source folder? Do I put them in the package? Put them in the project?
No, source.
Right. Well, I could choose at the project level. I could choose a new source folder. I could choose a new package. I could choose a new annotation or whatever. If I go back into the source area, I could go new, and again, I could choose annotation, source folder, Java working set, a folder. I can make another folder, which is probably what I want to do. What if I make it a folder, right? Okay, so let's try this out. I want to make a folder for stuff. So make a new folder, and I'm going to make the folder name, I'm going to call this thing assets. Okay, so there's my asset folder, okay, which is inside of my source folder, inside my default packages, but outside of my dialog.java, and it's inside my default packages. So here's my assets, right? Now I don't have anything in my assets, but I want to add in some kind of image, right? Like how do I add this image onto my stuff? And now it says any JPEG or PNG image that I want to add in. So let's find one from the internet. I'll go to the internet now and find an interesting object. Let's find it so that it's a I'll just random image generator. No, I want a random image. Random image from images. Random. There we go. Rubiks Cube. There we go. Some kind of Rubiks Cube. Perfect. It's just for you. Let me just right click and save image as. And I'm going to put this image, this cube, to this cube image, and we're going to put this inside of my files, right? It's got to be physically inside my resource. So I'm going to go courses, and I'm going to go into my COMP228, which is where I have my stuff, inside my workspace, my lesson 6, inside my source folder, inside my assets folder, and I'm going to call this cube and press save. There it is, down here, and let's refresh so I can see if I have this thing in here, right? Cool, there it is, my cube.png file. All right, how do I find my cube.png file in my resources? Now, that's the question, right? Here's one thing I can't do. I can't drag and drop, so I can't do one of these. Can't go into my program file and go, yay, let's add this in, because it'll give me one of those, right? So that won't do it, right? Reference this somehow, and if I look at the PowerPoint, it says I need to use my get class, get resource, and then I have to mention what it's called, right? So in my case, it's called, I think. Let's see. Yes. So how do I get access to this? Is this the right folder, first of all, to get access to? Because you guys said it was okay, right? Right? Let's take a look, right? So I'm going to go back. Let's take a look at the example code that we used. And we said set icon bug, and we said icon bug is equal to new image icon get class dot get resource, this kind of text. Let's all use that. And I'll put this. This is inside my class, if you notice, right? Here's my class. So we'll do that. We'll say my class is going to have an icon. We're going to call it cube is equal to new image icon, and we'll do that the other stuff after. So let's go in there. So inside we're going to have an icon as a private object, right? So I'm going to say private icon. We're going to call this cube, right? And if you notice, it says I need a fix, import the icon, Java done. And now I've got to set up my cube as a new image icon, right? So I'm going to do that obviously here in my initialize function. Before I call this dot underscore cube, right, is equal to new image icon, just press space, and say the name of my object, right, my file name, which is get resource dot get name, that kind of thing, right? Let's try this. So if you notice the the path to this is going to look like this: get class dot get resource, and then the name of the icon. Let's see if we can find this this way. So get class dot get resource, the name of the object, which is cube, right? Or sorry, we're looking for the object called cube.png. Yeah. Right, cube.png. We're using the get class.get resource cube.png. Okay, good. So if it's in our namespace, maybe we should be able to find it, huh? That's the assumption. All right, now what I want to do is going back to the PowerPoint presentation, I want to add this one in. I'm going to set my icon to cube. So let's go back there and I'll say, I'm creating my icon. Is after I've done my label, before I add it to the pane, my content pane. That's interesting. Get content pane. I'm going to do one of these. I'm going to say this dot first name label set icon to the icon name, which is going to be called this dot underscore cube. Okay. So cube icon. Right. Let's see what happens if I do this. If it works, if it errors out. Okay. Well, where's the cube icon? Let's see it.
Then you have to do like /assets, then cube, and you want to bring it to the image.
Well, the assumption is that it should be able to find everything, right? So let's do that. Let's do a like you said. So /assets,
Or dot.
because we're looking from the. I got to go back up one, right? Because right now the default package in my default package, my assets doesn't exist, right? That's one of the issues, right? So we don't want to do this in. Yeah. So this is not in my default package. So do I want to move this into my default package? And the answer is probably yes. No. No, I want to move it in there. I want to kind of copy and paste it again. So we're just going to call it assets. Package with that name already exists. Oh, because that's a package, its own package, right? So I got to install this as an asset thing, right? Assets, copy. Let's rename, cancel. Let's rename this thing. So we're going to refactor, rename the folder as asset. And now we're going to move this over. Yeah, sure. And we're going to move this whole thing over into my default package. I'm going to call this assets. Okay. And what happened? Right? This I get rid of. So it didn't do it. I tried to, but I got a problem. So it's assets is what it is. So do I have to do one of these? Import assets, right, dot star, right? So everything from the assets, I want everything in my assets. Now if I do cube.ping, will I be able to find them with the get resource, right? Because the same as what you just said, right? Doesn't even give me an error. That's the thing that kills me, right? I'm trying to set the thing up here, right? So I've done this swing constants dot center, right? And I want to add in an asset. Let's see if we can do it with the UI. So I'm going to go in there, and I'm going to go to design, and I want to add in the icon. Click this, and I want to do a class path. And I look at my source assets, cube.ping. Here it is, and press OK. Cool. Now it's going to add it in, right? It's massive too, by the way. Massive, right? Let's see what it's done on the source side so I understand what we've done. So it did first name label.set icon. We did this already. So that's what we're trying to do. New image icon, example frame, class, get resource. Oh, there you are. So you're right. It has to give us the apps to the name, right? But why would I have to do this as opposed to get class? We already have this, right? So get class dot get resource. I mean, that's something we don't need to do, right? So example frame class dot get resource. Let's try this out. So if I go move this whole thing here, because that's what we're doing, a new image icon. Exactly what we did, right? So it just use this instead. So let's just do this example frame. It's kind of neat. So we'll just put this. here. And instead of this, we'll put this.cube. Horrible. See if that works. The same, right? I'll move it around. See if that works now. Yay! Oh, icon. What the hell? Okay, that was working. Let's see what it looks on the design side. So what happened, right? Because I kind of did it here, and I did the exact same thing, new image icon. I created a cube, which I made an icon, right? And it's not liking that at all. So let's undo. Let's see what it did differently. It's just doing this. Okay, so just curious if we just do one of these, just so we don't do anything crazy like that. And let's save it and run it, just curiosity, from curiosity. It still doesn't display it. However, I have a reason why. I think I have an inkling as to why. All right, so if I go back here and I go to design, it's here, but guess what? This object, I wonder it's displaying here, but it's not displaying it in our project, and I wonder if it's because our dialog dimensions aren't big enough for it. Like, well, if I run this thing, oh, are you kidding me? That's even worse. You know what's even worse? You don't want to know. What's even worse, peoples, is that we're not using example frame, right, at all, right? What we're using instead is we're using the dialog, right? Here's example frame right here, right? Yeah, baby, that's a big error, right? So that's good. I like that. It's great learnings, right? So let's just put that back, and we don't need this stuff because I'm not using any of this stuff anymore. And instead of dimension, I want to put this dimension in there. And instead of my dialog, I don't want to do this anymore, dialog at all. I'm going to do my frame, and I bet you it was going to work the last time too when I did it. Ooh. Put this all back, go like this, and then that should really display my frame the way I want it. And if I've done everything correctly, voila. Hey, I was going to say, like, that's not right, right? How come it's not doing that? So that's pretty cool. Let's go back and now, so myself right. So cube, and instead of this thing that I've got here, take my cube, this cube, and put that in there, right? Because this get resource example class, we're going to take this whole image piece right here, right? Cut this out and go right here and put this in. And cube by copying and pasting in here, and get rid of the bracket, which would be pretty good, right? Save. Let's look at the design view. Doesn't show it, but that's okay because I want to see what it does. This is no different. I'm just curious again why this doesn't work. Why? And then I'm getting tired. And then go to here and run it, and then see what I got. I got it anyway. Baha. Design. There's a difference. So I've seen it in this view, but when I go to design view, it doesn't show, right? Which is kind of, that's a funny thing. That's something I don't like about Eclipse sometimes, when it doesn't. It's kind of trying to figure out what's going on, right? So it likes its own built-in functionality sometimes. And here's something. Let's just, from an example, if I go get class, if I said get class, right, dot get resource, and instead of assets cube ping, if I just put cube ping, right? Just curious to see what this will do, right? And get class dot get resource, right? And if I go back to program.java and run it, doesn't still do it. It says example thread main, Java pointer exception, Java swing, and then it says it doesn't know what the hell I'm talking about, right? Because it's getClass.get resource is what we were looking at before. Yeah. Back to the PowerPoint presentation, that's what they did, getClass.get resource, right? And unfortunately, because we're using getClass inside of a class, and we're not able to use this cube.ping object, but I'm wondering if I was to put in the path, which is this, right? Would that work if I did this? And no, it doesn't. So let's go back and undo. We get great thing about this is okay. So redo. We'll get class. And try that again. So I'm only changing my get class. I'm not changing the path, which is probably the issue, but it should have given me a different error if it was the path, not that one. If I was suspecting that would be an issue, but it is. So it's the path. So that would work. So the path has to be the absolute path, like you talked about, which is up one into assets and into my cube.ping file. Okay, so this now we're looking at, I got images, I got text, I can set up my, I'm going to get the layouts the next time we get together. From an exam perspective, all you'd be asked to do is, so tell me a little bit about JOptionPane, tell me a little bit about JFrame, tell me a little bit about JPanel. How do I set things? How if this is my getter and setter, what do you think it's going to show? You know, this kind of thing is the most you're going to get on your exam. You're probably not going to be asked to do any kind of UI on your exam because we've only just started to play with it. Okay. And again, from a perspective where we left off, we've gotten, I would say, probably here, page 25 in our PowerPoint. Out of pages, right? Yeah, it's massive, right? So that's what I'm saying. I have to chunk this out for you. It doesn't make any sense for us to do anything like this. So again, please study the chapters. Again, we're targeting the first section for the exams to repeat. So the day of 10:30 to 12:30, that would be the time frame. I will set up a notification to remind everybody. But the exam is going to happen next week on Tuesday at 10:30 to 12:30. Okay, and if anything changes, like if I find that you just need more time, or maybe what I can do is there might be also an option to do the multiple choice at your own leisure, be something that finish the multiple choice but tonight, you know, kind of thing, like one of those. Then you won't have, and we'll have a regular class on the 6:30 to 8:30 time frame. We'll do more of this. Okay, that's what I'm planning. Okay, thanks a lot, and we'll see you next week for the exam. Good night.